Hello everyone. As I have said that I am going to complete all the topics of internal security on the basis of the syllabus of UPSC CSC. So today I'm going to start it, and today the very first chapter that we are going to see is the elements of national security, or generally we can say national security. So first of all, what is a national security? National security is something which is needed to protect our country geographically and through other means, so that to protect the sovereignty, integrity, etc. of our nation. There are few elements of national security on which it works, or on which it creates certain features so that this criteria should be fulfilled. So, for the elements of national security, there is a trick called My Girlfriend is Forever Ready to Eat Chips. As we can see, for MY, my M stands for military, that is external and internal both, state and non state actors. Non state and state actors mean those who are in our country and they are creating violence or something which is against the national security of our country. And non-state actors means the people those who are from other countries. Second is girlfriend. So G stands for geostrategic, that is the neighbors, those who are creating hindrance in our national security, etc. And F stands for food. Then there is forever. Forever means there are four E's, that is environment, economic, energy, ethnic. Then we have ready. So for ready, we have R stands for resources and D stands for disaster. Then we have chips. Chips, that is C for cyber, H for health, I for information, P for political security, and S for strategy. So, what are these elements? These elements are such grounds on which a national security create its features or its policies or its ways, so that all these elements should be covered. So, for example, in the ethnic security, we will work on mob violence. Then, in the information warfare, we will learn about that how the documentaries of certain news channels like BBC, etc., are creating a kind of violence, a kind of misguidance, which was recently seen by the president has given the statement to the ITS officers. Third, we can also see in the terms of resources like the Brahmaputra Indus Water Treaty. So, whenever there is a hindrance or something like that, this gets affected. Then, in the political terms, we can see that national security is at risk in terms of human rights and AFSPA, etc. Then, in the terms of health, we have seen in the pandemics, like then in the food, we have seen on green revolutions, etc. There is also a certain case study on understanding this element food of national security, is that how food is becoming a factor of creating a hindrance in national security. So there was uh, PS PL 480, that is public law. 480 public law was there. Public law 480 was a food security was there given by America to us, because at the times of 1960s, India was not capable of uh, creating or producing food as per the demand. That means the supplies were less and demands were more. So the America, with the help of the public law 480, had said or had said to give food to our Indian citizens. So, and in 1962, there was a war between India and China. And in 1965, there was a war between India and Pakistan. And at that time, during the 1965s, Pakistan was an ally of US. So US has said to India to get stop the war or to just get away from the war because as Pakistan was ally of US, and if India doesn't do this, and if India is not going to, I mean, accept the US proposal or the US order, then the US will stop giving the food by PL 480 to the Indian citizens. Then there is a very specific term in the chapter of national security, that is national security doctrine. Questions are asked about what is it, what it contains, what are the elements of it, why it is needed, etc. So we will see one by one all of those. At first, what is national security doctrine? It is a kind of a principle, vision, and a kind of objectives to create things for the national security of our country. Vision, that is having a very sovereign and a protected country. The principles are to understand the elements, how it works, what are the things needed, etc. And objectives is like what are the steps we have to take it so that we can achieve the principles and finally the vision. So there are two ways of performing the national security doctrine. First, with the help of armed forces, and second, with the help of diplomats. At first, armed forces. What is it? Armed forces are the people, those who are in the armies or those who are protecting our nation through armies. And what army forces do, they think or they predict things which are in the national interest and also defines and finds the challenges that are forming or that are occurring in the management of national security doctrine. Second is diplomats. With the help of diplomats, we use very various methods and various, or we can say modalities. Modalities means methods or measures, or so that we can immensify or we can make our national security more and more stronger through the elements of the national powers like um, the like weapons and various policies, etc., etc. Now, now we'll have understood what is a national security doctrine. Now we are going to study what are the elements of national security doctrine on which it works. So, on the terms of Indian factors, so what are the Indian factors? First of all, it will think of the Indian factors like what are the principles of India, what are the principle of India's national security, objectives of national security, visions of national security, the future of uh, national security that we want, the goals of national security that we want to achieve, the interests that we want to have or to want to give to our citizens, our nation, etc. First criteria is this for number one element. Number two is we will work on the modalities, that is the methods. What are these modalities are like we will in the modalities for the methods. First of all, we will see that what resources do we contain, how to use that resources to strengthen our national security, how to respond and red lines are national security threats or what are the etc stuffs. Fourthly, we can understand that what are the interplay of that is the interconnection or interplay of armed forces and diplomacy together so that this could be achieved. The third factor that we will see is the culture of accountability. Culture, the third element of NSD is culture of accountability, as it is for achieving any kind of security or providing any kind of security. The most foremost thing that is required is to separate the powers and roles and responsibilities very effectively. Then only at every minor to major stage the security would be performed or would be provided effectively. So, in the third point, that is the culture of accountability. There were the three aspects are there. One is clear roles and responsibilities. Like we have to clear the roles and responsibilities of each and every member, civilian, army, anyone who is under this. Second is the federal accountability, that is the center state accountability responsibilities needed, because if there is something happening in the state and the state is saying that it is not my responsibility, the union will see onto this, the center will see on this matter, I will not see on this. So what happened in that case? In that case, the problem which is occurring at in that particular state will become more worse and worse, because they are waiting for the center to come and do their work and to provide security. So rather than this, the state, we should divide the powers and responsibilities in that way that the state can immediately react on it, not waiting for someone to come and do it for them. So this will give a more effectiveness. Third is coordination mechanism is very much needed. This coordination must be there among the civilians and army, among the center and state, etc. The very fourth thing, that the fourth element of NSD is adversarial calculations. Adversarial calculations means what oppositions do. Adverse, again I'm saying adversarial calculations means what opposition do. Like when there is an attack, or when they want to attack, or when they faces the attack, what are the responses they do, what are the interests they do, what are the methods they do to respond, what factors which hinders them or which deters them. On these basis we will find out these things, these points, and in according to these points we will make our modalities so that it will be more accurate. Now let's understand what is that we have seen what is national security, what is a national security doctrine, its definition, its elements. Now we have to understand one thing, that why there is a need of it, why we need a national security doctrine. So there are we will divide it in three parts: on the basis of the past, on the basis of the present, on the basis of the future. That what are the things, so first of all we will see what are the things which had happened in our past which affected the national security doctrine. First was accountability. There was no clarity of responsibility among the federal or among the army and the civilians, etc., etc. So, which created a hindrance. First. Second is there is no algorithmic decisions making in emergencies. Like when there is an emergency, if there is no clarity, so what the particular state or the particular point at which the security threat is been going on, they will wait for the authority to come and solve it out. And during this or doing this kind of method, the people will get more affected with the threats or with the attacks. So it should not be done. It should be like needed that there should be immediate response to the threats or the attacks. For this, a very famous example is the plane hijack of one IC 814. Sorry, IC 814 in Mumbai. The plane was hijacked and the airport security is doing nothing, and he was waiting for the center, for the authority to come and do or provide the protection. Very third reason in the past which is needed is the previous committees have recommended. So like previous committees were there, like Kargil Review, see Kargil Review Committee, NC Task Force, like NC, that's Naresh Chandra Task Force Committee, all these recommended to form a national security doctrine. Now we have seen what are the terms which forced or which supports for the formation of national security doctrine. Now are going to see the present reasons. What are the things in the present that we are facing is forcing us for creation of this national security doctrine? The very first is integrating civil society. So integrating civil society means that the civil society should not feel that they are not responsible for providing security. It is the goal is to be such that the civil should be very much connected to the army, very much connected to the feeling that they are responsible for each and every citizen's security, in the sense like they have to be like very much active with the military as well, so that there could be less number of attacks, etc. Second need is there should be a balance between the militarized civilians and civilized military. So there should be a balance, means there are also certain civilians which are militarized. They have taught how to fight, how to attack, how to face the threats, etc. And we have the army and the military as well. So there should be proper coordination between them for overcoming the threats of national security. Fourth is the comprehensive national power. So there are six elements of comprehensive national powers in the terms of political, economical, science and tech, military, culture, geographical. Again, I'm repeating, what are the six elements? Political, economical, geographical, science and tech, military, cultural. So, on basis of these elements of comprehensive national power, it is needed to form the national security doctrine. The fifth point is examples of foreign powers. In the various foreign countries like US, Pakistan, China, they are having the national security doctrine, but India doesn't. So it is required. Now, what are the things in the future that has to be overlooked, or that has to be seen, or keep in mind, and has to create a national security doctrine over it? The first is changing domains of warfare. Like now, the ways of war, attacks are becoming more complex. Complex threats are there. There are gray zone warfare. The term is there, gray zone warfare is being seen. So all these are changing domains of warfare. So for this it is needed. Second is essential before reforms. Means it is very obvious that we should not wait for things to happen. We have to be very preventive. We have to take the precautions beforehand. So the term is there, essential before reform. That is a very famous line of M.M. Niveen, like cart before the horse. Again, cart before the horse. So it is needed. First, it is not like first we will bring the horse and then we will start making the cart. First we'll make the cart and then we will bring a horse and we'll attach it. Third reason is there a rationalized jointness in procurement. That is, efficient jointness is needed, like in the terms of weapons development and import ratio, etc. So, a very efficient and systematic approach has to be taken for so that like weapons development is needed, etc. stuff. So, very systematic way and a well reasoned approach to be needed to in terms of import, like approach to combining the purchasing efforts of multiple parties, like making them more and more purchasing of the weapons, etc. Now we'll see. So as we have seen the need of it, now if it is so, by seeing the needs that is in the past, that is in the present, or in the future, we came to know that national security doctrine is very important term. So there should be a question that if it is so much of an important, then why it has not developed so far? What is the reason behind it? So the reason for this is the political hesitation is there. Like political hesitation is there, and there was Shankar Menon who had said that there is a lack of unity among the people, among the militaries, or among center state or military civilians, etc., etc. So there's a lack of unity or cohesion. Second, then is deliberate non-disclosure, in sense that it is there. There is a national security doctrine, but we haven't presented it, or we haven't opened it or disclosed it to the citizens, to the country, for its security purpose. So this is the two reasons of not having national security so far. One is lack of cohesion, and second is there is deliberated but non disclosure. Now, what are the challenges in framing national security doctrine? We have seen that what is it, elements, why it is needed, if it is needed so much, why it is not being made so far. But now we'll understand that what are the challenges in framing this national security doctrine. First is ideology. Like, so the ideology of national security doctrine is based on strategic restraint. That is, they didn't prefer for wars. They wanted to sort the matter by a diplomatic or a economical or a psychological ways. Like they wanted to overcome the matter by the measures of diplomatic, economical, psychological, in such ways. The second reason is goal. The goal of NSD is very divergent because there are lots of elements in it. So a very divergent goals are there. Third reason is framing of a civil and military relations, like a joint policy kind of input. They wanted to create a jointness between the civils and the military, which is difficult because some civils want to understand it, want to go according to it, some doesn't want to. So it's creating a hindrance or a difficulty of doing so. The fourth is updation. As NSD is a very sensual topic, or its varieties or its variances are much, so its proper updation is needed. That how the regular updation of it is very much needed. It is not something like we have made it and it will go for 10 to 15 years. It has to be updated very fluently or very effectively. The next is execution problem. Like there are very loss of strategic flexibility. Like there is not so much of flexibility. Like suppose, like we have decided in our national security doctrine. Like these are some points. If this is done, we will consider it a national security doctrine. Now what happens, as we have seen the very last point, that the it requires a lot of updations because there are lots of variances in it. So suppose something happens which is affecting the national security of the country, but it is not mentioned in our national security doctrine. So now it is very difficult to work on it, to take measures on it, or to consider it a national security threat. So its execution is very difficult. Then the feedback. Like there is a lack of think tanks. Think tanks means thinking similar. because some people thinks that no, like suppose they are creating the points which are under national security doctrine. Now few people have said that if they are giving a threat, or if they are giving a threat through calls, through messages, or through um, video calls, etc. So these are the threats that we will consider it in our national security doctrine. Now some others says that if they send the person, or they send their people to give threat or to disturb the civilians or something like that, so that will not be considered, because it is not mentioned in the national security, it is not mentioned in the national security doctrine. So that's why the feedback is like there is a lack of thinking tanks. Some thinks this, some thinks that. So we can conclude this topic by giving a conclusion, that is the need of vigilant and adaptive security craft as a conflict ridden global landscape. We can add a quote with it: the new frontier of war is what you call civil society. It is said by NSA Ajit Doval. There is a quote by CDS General Anil Chauhan on not having national security doctrine till date is the absence of a written security strategy. Repeating again, the absence of a written security doctrine or a strategy doesn't mean that the country doesn't have one. So, one recent context that has happened on national security doctrine is Modi ji's sayings after the Falgama attack. The Honorable Prime Narendra Modi ji, Mr., had said and outlined the three key pillars of India's security doctrine. Is first is decisive retaliation. Repeating, first is decisive retaliation. Second is no tolerance for nuclear blackmail. If there will be a nuclear blackmail, we will give the response to him. Third is no distinction between terror sponsors and terrorists. Like if somebody will tell that I'm not a terrorist, so but I'm sponsoring them, are also terror in terms of India. So what are the three security doctrines? Decisive retaliation, no tolerance for nuclear blackmail, and no distinction between terror sponsor and terrorists. The Union Home Ministers inaugurated a 2-day National Security Strategic Conference on September 2024. A lecture on a national security strategy was held at Central University of Kerala. There is a diagram for national security, that is unwritten national security strategy. There are diagram for it. First we see is policy, that is neighborhood first. Second is process, defense planning committees. Organizational structure, that is National Security Council, CDS, etc. So these three are not written, but these are the bodies, or these are the things which are working on the India's security. Like what is the very first is policy. That is the policy, that is the neighborhood first. The things which has to be mentioned, that we should not be, or we should be protected from our neighbors, or the relations of our with the neighboring countries, etc. Second is processes, that if there is happen a threat or a attack, how we'll overcome through it, what are the things we are going to do, that we have discussed, and then discussed by, planned by the defense planning committees processes. Then third is the organizational structures which go through it, which look after it, the CDS and national security councils.